Hey guys, your favorite CEO comment. I'm so sorry about this. We had Ellen Watts was going to be doing the live coaching today, and she had promised me that she was all set up with her headset and everything tested and everything, and then she's not because Windows is a shit show and nothing works. I think she managed to install. She bought some headset that installed some like crazy drivers on her system. And then the drivers just made like no audio is working whatsoever. I spent 10 minutes on Skype just trying to like live tech support her through her Windows nightmare. I think new rule going forward, no live events with people who run Windows. And we'll have someone like actually test it out beforehand. I did do a call with her before where things were working, but I think she added this headset and then things didn't work. So too bad. We'll have to reschedule. We'll have to do this again at some point. In the meantime, what can I do for you guys? Is there something that, do you have like questions? I'm happy to take your questions about anything that might be on your mind. Let me see here. I'm going to pull up the chat so I can actually see if you're writing something. Now she's calling me again. Let's see what happens here. Do we have audio? We still have no audio. No audio. No. Sorry. Hey guys, here's Ellen. Hi. But we can't hear anything. There's not really any use without being able to hear anything. So, but I'll take everybody's questions in the meantime, if there's anything that we can do to help you guys. So let me see here. Let me bring the chat up. Again, that's where we are. So if you have questions, happy to answer them. I have no idea how this would work to actually go through this live without having someone to go through it with. I could do that. We could do that. Just completely like improvising here. Yeah, I'm not really sure. It's kind of long. So I don't think that would work particularly well, honestly, guys. So let me talk about yeah. What is Steven saying? He's saying, I went to post a link to the thread, but now I can't find the live video, usually at the right top. I have no idea what that means. All right. Here's a phrase that actually relates a lot to this coaching process that I've come up with, which is, being willing. Are you willing to do whatever it takes on the inside in order to get the results that you want on the outside? All right. So a lot of people are, want a lot of things in life. They want health, relationships, they want business, money, they want confidence, whatever it is. They want other people's stuff. But the question is, and a lot of people are limited, like they only want to do so much in order to get there. They were like, yeah, I'll do that. Oh no, I won't do that. So my aunt who died last year in April, her and my mom would regularly go to these psychics. My mom has always been into that kind of stuff. My aunt, her name is Bodil, not so much, but she was curious. She was curious and very, very wealthy, super wealthy. And so they would go, sometimes my mom would be like, hey, I'm going to this like psychic thing. And like, Bodhi would be like, oh, that sounds really exciting. Can I come? And then they would go. And they would go in separately and talk to this person. And then after my aunt came out, my mom would ask, so what did he say? What did she say? What was it? Tell me. And she was like, no, they all say the same thing. I'm not going to do that. And nobody knows what that thing was. Nobody knows. Like, I mean, some people know, obviously, but we don't know what that thing was. What was that thing that all of these psychics apparently all said, this is what you need to do? And that she was just like, she refused to tell anyone else what it was. And she refused to do it. She took this secret with her into the grave. We don't know. I don't know if her children knows or anything, but we don't know what that secret is. I'm super curious. I'm super curious what it is. My mom was like, I think it was like about leaving her husband. I'm like, I'm not so sure. I think they were probably, I think they're a pretty good fit. I think it might be something else. Interestingly too, she lost eyesight in the past 15 years, which is in that kind of spiritual terms is a pretty clear indication that there's something that you're not willing to see, right? There's some truth you're not willing to see. And I think we all have that, right? So there's kind of the level to which you're willing to go. I see a lot of people in kind of that like coaching, whatever, like those people who are like, spiritual teachers, whatever, right? Where it's very clear that they've come very far. And then there's this limit to, all right, I'm going to go to here and no further. Like, this is it. I've done all the development that I want to do. And this is it. And I have my blind spots and I have my issues and I have all these things and I just don't care. And that's perfectly fine. Like everybody's obviously entitled to do that. But the question is, if you're not having the results that you want, right? If you have a block like that you're like, I'm willing to do this much, but this I wouldn't do on the inside, like this old trauma, this old pain, this old belief, this story, this identity that I've put on, like, I'm not willing to look at that. I'm not willing to go there. I'm just not willing to look at that. Well, then that's going to limit what you'll be able to accomplish. It's that simple, right? So are you willing to do whatever it takes on the inside in order to get the results that you want on the outside? Because any results that you have is a direct reflection of who you're being. Who are you being? That affects everything. Who you're being, are you being someone who's like always feeling like it's someone else's fault and like you can never, or you're like, are you feeling like a slob that never like exercises? Are you feeling like someone who, like a loser who just can't succeed with anything? Are you feeling like you're not worthy or you're not valuable? Like all of these, the ways that you're being in that way, and that's then the result that you're going to create, because you're going to start acting in that way and telegraphing to other people that this is how you feel. And we do this all the time, right? Because as much as we can try to control our message and what we say, 98% of our communication, I'm just making that number up, but 98% of our communication is unconscious. It just slips out in words that we use, or little gestures, or where you look with your eyes, or all these kinds of things, your handwriting or your posture, whatever it is. So there's really, you can't hide who you're being, and that's great, right? That's awesome, because it means if you just focus your energy on being that person that you want to be, then the rest of it takes care of itself. It really is magic. Like you do the inner work so that the outer work just becomes super easy and natural for you. And then the question, of course, is how do you do the inner work? Well, that's on you to find out, right? I found in the beginning of my journey, I could learn a ton from books. I can still learn stuff from books, but less and less, because the challenges that I'm facing are kind of more. Phyllis is writing, I'm getting this message everywhere. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah. Like more and more as you go down this journey, you're going to find that your particular situation is just like, there's no good answer. You can get inspiration, but ultimately you have to look inside. You have to figure out, like, get really, really curious, get into the state of wonder. I wonder how I'm being so that I'm creating this result. I wonder what it is that I'm not really willing to see that is holding me back right now. So living in that state of openness and wonder is really what does it for you. I still love to like read books about all kinds of things, and I buy probably like 30 books a month, like a book a day, probably on average. And do I read them all? Of course not. But if I find like a nugget or two, or just like a perspective change or something that puts me in a different direction to look at, that's totally worth it, right? And that's the thing too, like when you're looking at that inside, that like, being willing to do whatever it takes on the inside, and you're like, am I? Like, that's a good commitment to make, right? Like, am I really committed? Am I really willing to do whatever it takes on the inside so that I can have the life that I want on the outside? But then like starting to like, what was I saying? I was saying like books, you will usually not know. You'll be looking over here while the issue is really over here, right? Because we'll be doing more of what we've always been doing, because I don't know, that's kind of how we that's how we're wired. That's how we do it. Like, this is what I know. This is like, oh shit, it's not working. Let me try harder of what doesn't work, right? So that perspective shift of like, yeah, that's great, but this is where you need to look, right? So for me, a big thing that I've mentioned before is being my relationship with my masculine side and my relationship with my dad, which is, it almost sounds trite to talk about it, but it's such an issue in our society right now, is that, men's relationship with their masculine side and women's relationship with their feminine side. Like I've coached people in business, women, where I've just like, you just need more orgasms. Like that's it. That's like, I wouldn't coach a guy to say that generally, but for a woman, that's generally not generally, but that can often be the case, because it turns out that female orgasm is the pathway to transcendence and that feeling of spiritual bliss. It's very, very important for a woman to have regular orgasms. So, hey, Ellen, here we are. We'll figure it out. We'll do it again. So we might be looking in the wrong direction. So for me, very much, I was like, I grew up with a dad that I was scared of and a mom that I was overly attached to. And so that led me to, unconsciously as a kid, probably like 5 years old, decide I don't want to be like my dad. Men or masculine people are tyrannical and evil and all that stuff. Like, that's how I saw my dad. And for he's a great person. He's a great guy. I love my dad. But I think it was like, he was a little brusque, and so it was very easy for me to be scared of him. I think my mom probably helped too, because she was scared of him. So it was like she sought solace in me and kind of helped that image a little bit at that time, I think. But the point is that I decided, unconsciously as a kid, I don't want to be like my dad. And so basically my masculine development stopped at age 5 or so. And then I grew with this very, very strong, deep feminine side, which is great. It's a fantastic thing to have. It's a great kind of ability or tool or experience, all that. But I wasn't thriving there. It was severely limiting my potential, my ability in all kinds of ways. Because the masculine energy, the simple way to think of it is like, the masculine energy is like the thing that goes like, this is where we're going. And in order to get there, we're going to go dink, 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 boof. And it doesn't care about like whatever obstacles are in the way. We're just like, boom, 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 boom. We're going to go there. Done. Let's do this. Whereas the feminine energy goes in circles, in adventures, and like, goes around. And you need both of those things. You absolutely need both of those things. But a business that's all feminine and has none of the masculine, it's not going to work. It's just not going to, it's not going to grow. It's going to like there's no structure. People are like, I don't know what. I thought I created a place where people were just be yourself and do what you want and feel like, and what do you want to do kind of thing. And people were like, they felt freaked out. They felt scared. They felt like, I don't know what's like, what is their criteria here? What am I being judged on? What is expected of me? What is like, where are we going? Like, is anyone like driving the ship, or are we just like lost at sea or something? And I can understand that. It makes perfect sense. So I needed to learn that, but I wasn't looking there at all. So when things weren't working the way I wanted it to, and when I didn't have the results that I wanted to, I kept going more into the feminine. I'd be like, oh, I need to like meditate more and visualize more and like just like attract, or just like see if I can just get people like self-motivated. I don't know. I forget what I was doing, but I was like, I need to play some more guitar. Right. I was looking in all the wrong places, and it affected everything. It affected like my physical, my health and my body. It affected my relationships, and not just with my wife, but also kids and friends and all these things. And I had no idea. It was a complete blind spot for me. Right. And that's the thing. That's the thing about it. Like, being willing to do whatever it takes means being willing to spot your blind spots and then go in that direction. Once I realized this, because of my mentor over in Denmark, Bengt, I went all in on it. Right. So that was a little over a year ago, and just like, all right, I need to learn this. And so I had this idea that being masculine, setting direction, expectations, holding people accountable, and all these things were bad and evil. Like, accountability for me sounded like a bad word. Discipline, to me, sounded like a evil, mean, tyrannical thing. And my team was literally asking me for accountability. It was like, I want you to hold me accountable. I need it. I'm like, and can you imagine, like, my son is 11 years old. He's coming tomorrow. I'm very excited. Like, how important it is for me to model that for him, and to be that healthy, loving dad for him that is, does hold him accountable and does offer direction and support in that very loving way. Super important, of course. And so we need to see all those things, and it can be painful, but it's also because, like, I look back at I'm 44 years old now, right? I was 43 when I realized this. I'm like, all right, that was like half my life wasted on, just barking up the wrong tree, like running down the wrong rabbit hole. Thank you, Laura, on the balance between. Laura writes, I hear you on the need to balance the masculine and feminine for men and women as well as businesses. Yes, absolutely. Right. So I lost like half my life, not lost, right? But I spent half my life, looking in the wrong direction. But that's how it is, right? Every time we grow, we realize that we've done something wrong. So every time you realize that you've been wrong about something, it's cause for celebration, because it means that now you know better. Screw however many years you've wasted on that, or like wasted, because it's not wasted. Of course it's not wasted, right? It's just like there's that pill that you need to swallow that's just like, just painful to realize that you've done this. And even like, I've been out there arguing the case, right, for weak feminine men, right? I've been in the barricades for that, right? It's like, whoa, and all the confusion that comes from that, and when it comes to relationships and sexuality and business and all that stuff, I've been out there advocating that, and then I'm like, yeah, I was kind of wrong. I was actually really wrong on that stuff. And being able to own that, and just being like, and being okay with that feeling, because that's what means that you're growing. When you can feel that, pain of realizing that you were wrong and how wrong you were, and then just take a moment to feel that, and then you can be like, okay, all right, And then this like freedom opens up, all these possibilities, right? All of a sudden, for me, the things that I did started to work, right? Things started to click into place. It was hard work, you know, just like the exercising 8 hours a week. Of course, also like I would be dead at the end of the day, right? In the beginning, just like, all right, I need to go in and structure what are all the projects, what's everybody doing, where are we at with it, what needs to happen, what needs to be eliminated, like what are we doing? And that's been the past year. And I was just toast at the end of the day. I was so exhausted. But it felt really good because I'd used myself and I'd, you know, moved in a healthy direction. I still have all the feminine. I can draw on that, tend to do that. I'm still learning. Like it's a process now of me being the father for this little boy that whose growth got stunted at the age of 5. So I need to be his father today. I need to be his daddy and figure out how to be that loving, caring, supportive, but also you know, demanding, or like this father for him that has expectations and demands things of the boy and holds him accountable in that very loving way. That's what I need to learn, and that's what I need to do. And then just gradually he's going to grow up, because that was my journey. Let me see what Ellen says. I lost my dad when I was 10, so I moved into the masculine role really early to support my mom. Does take a while to get the balance back. Yep, exactly right. And I think most of us, because our society is so screwed up when it comes to masculine and feminine and healthy relationships in general, like, then so many of us have emotional wounding in this area, right? And especially, I think part of what happened for me was my dad is actually a quite feminine guy. Never seen him work out in my life, and he like goes on these like long winding stories that go nowhere, which is a very like clear sign of like a very feminine type personality. I didn't realize that, of course, right? I didn't know that. But I think probably what happened is his dad wasn't a very masculine man either. And so when my dad grew up, I don't know about it. So anyway, when my dad grew up, for whatever reason, he decided to shut down his masculine side a little bit, which is why I think it came out like kind of brusque at times, and like this kind of stunted thing was like, because it kind of comes out, because it has to come out. I've been there too, because you're fighting it so much, but you can't really keep it down. And so I think what happened for me was as a baby started to show some of that more masculine side, whatever that looked like. I'm just completely making this up because I obviously can't remember. But I think probably what happened is like I have some like memories of feeling that like very attacked by my dad as like a very young boy, baby, that threatened him. Like of course, if you're a father that has a lot of resistance towards your own masculine side, how are you going to react to a boy, your son, that shows strong masculine characteristics, right? Well, you can't really celebrate that and then deny it in yourself. Like you can do it in words, but there's going to be that inner resistance is going to show through. So I think that probably happened with me, completely unconscious. I'm not blaming anyone, but I think it happens a lot. And then, you know, I think the whole, you know, what is it called? Kind of like surrogate husband or surrogate wife kind of thing, right? Where mom is not getting her emotional needs met from her husband, and so she gets it from her boy. That happened totally for me. That's going to screw up your kid, right? Or the same thing with like, if the dad gets his emotional needs met from a daughter because, you know, he's not getting his emotional needs met in the relationship. And those things are just gonna screw people up. And so it goes in generations, right? Like there's a reason that we see the things that are happening. Like right now, the whole Me Too thing and like toxic masculinity and all that stuff is like, yeah, there's a lot of broken men out there, right? They're not really masculine. It's their masculinity was like stunted at age 5 or something. But the question is, why did that happen, right? Like, would the moms have any responsibility in creating that situation? It's not really their responsibility to fix it. That's on each and every one of us, right? But you can't put the blame on anyone, and nobody created this. It's no one's fault. It's just where we are. We're so confused. Anyway, I want to get back to talking about business a little bit. So a business needs, it needs the masculine to thrive. It also needs the female to create, a feeling of space, of a loving, family-like atmosphere. Yeah, that's a great question. So Ellen writes, how do we get the right balance for our businesses? I think the key is you need to know, businesses are always, driven by their leaders and their founders, right? You can see Steve Jobs in Apple. You can see Tim Cook in Apple today. You can see, Larry and Sergey and Eric Schmidt and Sundar in Google at different times of its period. You can see the founders. So you as a founder need to be in your element. I'm a man. I need to be in my masculine. It's great that I have the feminine side, but the masculine side needs to lead. We have a chief of staff, Deanna, and her job essentially is to be the womb of the company, right? Her job is to make sure that everybody's feeling good and feeling loved and part of the family, that we really care about each other. I care, obviously, but I can't do that. I can't do both things at the same time. I can make sure it's done. I can recognize it. I can celebrate it and appreciate it. I can't focus on all of those things at once. My wife does coaching with our team members, and she supplies so much of that as well. She's actually very good at it. We found each other because obviously she has a very well-developed masculine side as well, and her feminine is lacking behind, right? So that's the process that we're in, is switching that around as a couple. But she's very, very good at giving that as well to the team. I appreciate it. I could probably do it, not in the way that she does, obviously, but I could probably do it, but I can't do both at the same time. I need to be that leader. So for you need to figure out, if you're a woman, I don't know where things are exactly, in terms of, there's always whenever people write about this, David Data writes about masculine and feminine, right? And then he says, well, some men will have a more feminine polarity, some women will have a more feminine polarity, masculine polarity. I'm going to close the door here. John Gray, the Mars and Venus guy, he wrote a new book recently called Beyond Mars and Venus. That's amazing. I recommend it, that everybody reads that, because it talks about how it's so great that women have gotten access to their masculine side. It's so great that men have gotten access to their feminine side, but we've gone overboard. We've crossed over. And one thing he said that really stuck with me is, when you're a man and you live mostly in your feminine side, that builds up estrogen. And as a man, you need to have 10 times the amount of testosterone to estrogen. But if you're doing all these activities that build up the estrogen, it stresses your system. Doing activities that build testosterone as a man calms your system down, right? And for a woman, it's the opposite. When a woman does things that build estrogen, that calms her system down. When she does too many things that builds testosterone and the balance gets out of whack, her system gets stressed. And so that's so it's key that you need to live in the place that you're home in. So if you're a woman, you need to live in the feminine, and then you need to use the masculine as a tool so that it gets the direction that it needs, right? The one metaphor is the river and the riverbanks. The feminine is the water, and the masculine is the riverbank. If there's no riverbanks, it's just like a puddle all over the place. When there's riverbanks, it gets direction, right? So you need to be able to supply, if you're a solo business person, you need to make sure that you have enough structure, and maybe you need to get help there, right? Just like I have Deanna and Nomi to help with the womb and the feminine side. Maybe you need help, so someone else can hold that mantle while you do what your nature is in. And it can be a for us, it's been a transition, right? Over a year. We're not done yet. Ellen thinks of herself as a puddle now. Yes, I love that. Laura writes, I love the hormonal perspective. Thank you. So yeah, making that transition can be quite the journey, obviously. And we're just in the beginning of it. And I want to assure people, like a lot of people were attracted to the company because of that feminine essence, which I totally get. And I appreciate that. And if we don't add the masculine, the structure and the direction and some of that fierceness that is in the male, it's like, like a man that just like, you're threatening my family, I'm going to freaking kill you, right? I'm going to fight you. There's a fierceness there in the masculine that's so important, and that we, again, as a society have gotten so freaked out and scared about. We need it. It's necessary. It's not evil. It's actually very, very loving. It's protective of what's yours and, your loved ones and all that. So where was I going with this? Laura writes, it stresses our bodies when we're not being true to our nature, which drives up cortisol, and that just messes up everything. Yes. Yes, exactly. So I was talking about the process. It's been a process for us. And yeah, some people get scared. Oh my God, now you're just like, you're completely going to lose the feminine, and like, we can't recognize you, or who is this or whatever. And we're not losing the feminine at all. And not at all, right? Again, the river and the riverbanks. If there is no structure, the feminine can't get to do its thing, because what happens to the feminine when there's no masculine is actually get scared. It freaks out, right? It gets scared because like, oh shit, like where's the boundaries? Like, I feel like I'm all over the place. I need those boundaries, that structure, to keep me kind of in place and give that river direction so that it can flow. And so it's actually not helpful, and it's actually not making us more effective. It's not making the feminine in the company more effective that there's not masculine. It just makes it freak out and scared and kind of useless, in a sense. So it actually adding that very strong masculine, and I don't know if we're actually overcorrecting. I'm trying to overcorrect because I know that I've been so much in the other boat, right? That it's better to just like try to overcorrect, to kind of build that new muscle, new energy, just like you're lifting weights and you're trying to lift more weight than you've done before. But that's what is going to make the feminine be able to actually thrive and do its thing. That's our process. All right. How does this relate to your coaching strategy to reach our goals? Are you saying we might need to get a mixed team, or get some masculine leadership to take care of my direction and structure? Yeah. So, well, I kind of abandoned trying to do the coaching process here and just went on a talk about based on being willing to do whatever it takes on the inside in order to get the results that you want on the outside. And the thing that came to mind for me, that was a big thing for me, was that whole masculine feminine balance. So, I think it depends on where you are, but if you're a female that, as you said, if you're a woman that has been tended to be have an overly developed masculine side and lacking the feminine, then you need to be careful not to lean too much on your masculine side, right? That's my tendency, is to lean too heavily on my feminine side instead of going into and using the masculine energy. So you need to be aware of that. Like, you need to figure out, you don't necessarily do a mixed team. That's an option. And I love that because I'm in a position where I can do that and it really works for me. But you don't have to do that. You just have to be mindful that you're not leaning so heavily on that masculine energy that you're going to get stressed out, right? One of my friends, Beth Davis, the fingerprint reader, the GPS from in your hands. I forget her phrase exactly, but she does fingerprint readings and she's amazing. she developed breast cancer for this exact reason, right? Like when your body starts to attack your specific female body parts, your breasts, your vagina, even your hair is a typical female thing. My ex-wife started losing her hair at one point for this reason. When you start, leaning too heavily on the masculine energy, you might very well get breast cancer. My mom had a friend, he's passed now, but he started as a surgeon operating on women's breasts, like cutting breasts off from breast cancer. And he noticed that they all had the same psychological pattern going. And he was like, I don't want to cut off more of these breasts. I want to help them solve the psychological issues so they don't get breast cancer. So he started to study psychology, and that was what he did instead. So yeah, you really need to, for your own health and for the health of your business, you really need to address that and start to like figure out where that breakdown happened and start to get that girl inside to grow up and invite her to be part of the business. And you can do that like in a playful way, right? Like think of it as she's a little girl. How can you bring that little girl to work in a way that she thinks is fun? It's fun for her. Like the whole process needs to be fun and enjoyable. And so it's great that you have this strong, well-developed masculine side. It means that you're able to get results, but you're never you're going to be, get stressed and possibly sick. But you're also never going to reach your potential and really get the results that you need, because you need that feminine side to inform it and to give it depth. I mean, that's what the feminine can do. Like the masculine is just like, all right, we're just going to go here. And I'm just like, not even going to pay attention to what's around me. Like the female can add that like deep depth that there's just like no way that the masculine can reach there. And so you need to find that interplay between those two. And, it's gonna be a play. Like start to, study, look at people. Like I love looking around, at just random people and just seeing, you can see so much from their posture, from their bodies, right? Like where they're holding, like start to study, like who out there looks very feminine, who looks very masculine. Like what are the people that attract you in that way? Like, there's the familiar way that you are attracted. And I'm not talking a sexual or romantic attraction here. I'm just saying like what resonates with you out there. Like what kind of person, like, can you think of someone like a business leader, someone that's, yes, playful and structured at the same time. Exactly. Right. That's what we want. And it's fun because like play is so important. Right. Play is way undervalued in our society. Like it has to be. Like we can accomplish so much when we play, and it's fun. Like it's how we learn. My dog has this new giraffe that she got, and she's just so excited about playing with it all the time. It's so lovely to watch, right? And we get it trained out of us. But if there's no structure, there can't be play either, right? You need to keep people safe. Like there has to be some boundaries, or like, all right, this is the area that we play in, and we're gonna, like, as adults, we're not gonna like stare at you all the whole time, but we're gonna know that where you are and that you're safe. And I'm all for like unsupervised playtime for kids. I think it's super important that there's not a parent all the time going like, oh my God, careful, something could break and all that kind of stuff, right? But yeah. Play needs some like clear boundaries. Like, all right, now playtime's over and it's time for dinner, it's time for bed or whatever. They're like, we need boundaries for the playtime, but the playtime is critical. It's so important. Yeah. So, Ellen says this is a great area of focus that so often gets overlooked. Thank you. All right. Questions. I felt like I was going somewhere and now I got lost. It happens all the time. It's kind of a feminine trait, honestly, to be completely honest. But here we go. So, yeah. Business. I think so. I've always had, there's this saying that you can work in your business or you can work on your business. And And like, I think it's Michael Gerber in the E-Myth talks about that, right? So you can kind of do the work of like, I don't know, writing the book or writing the code or answering the support tickets or designing the thing if you're a designer or whatever, like cooking the food, whatever it is. Or you can work on your business. And so that would be creating the processes and hiring people and telling them what to do and like systems, processes, people, all that stuff, right? That would be working on your business. And then I add the layer, you can work on yourself, right? Like that is the highest payoff that you can do in business. Like really invest in working on yourself, because that, again, that's what changes your being. And then when you change your being, you get all the things that you want in life. And I really believe that we're here to have abundance of anything that we care about. Like we're here to be rich. We're here to be rich and full of love and happiness and beautiful relations. And if you don't have that, and health, live into old age with great health. Like that's what we're here to do. That's what we're designed to do. The human body, the human being is this incredible machine that just like it heals itself, and like we fill it with junk. The body, we fill it up with junk, and it just like kind of copes with it. And maybe the liver goes and like gets a little like sick and stuff, but like it really does take so good care of us, right? It really works so hard to be really good, even though we treat it like shit. And so being who you are, there's this book called The Science of Getting Rich, which I love. And he's like, why would God put you on this planet with all this abundance and then not want you to have it? Like, there's nothing godly in being poor or not having, like, you're here to have all the things that you want so that you can fulfill your potential and do everything that you're here to do. That's what God intended for you. So if you're not having that, right? If you don't have the money that you want, what is it? How am I currently organizing myself to not have the money that I want? All right. What am I doing? How am I being? How am I organizing this entire being, mind, body, all of it, to not have the results that I want, the money that I want, the relationship that I want? It's not an accident. We're hiring for more developers right now. And some of them are like, one of them was like, I'm always the best in any group, and like wherever I come, and like I compare, and I'm just like always the best, and I don't understand why nobody's giving me a job. I'm like, And then I rejected him, and he started this like whole thread, and I'm like, what are you trying to accomplish here? Like, I'm not really, are you trying to like shame me into giving you, or guilt me into giving you a job, or like, what the hell is this? And he's like, I want the truth. I'm like, the truth about what? I have no idea what you're talking about. But it's like, you can just see how this person's energy is so holding him away from getting the results. Like, if you think that you're so amazing and you keep getting rejected from jobs, maybe you have a wrong idea. Maybe you're very, very good at like this very, very narrow thing, but the thing that's required to actually have job success, or just success at landing a job, is a broader thing. Maybe you need to look at yourself, right? It's the answer is always inside of you, just always. Like, I've never encountered anything in my life so far where the answer wasn't completely obvious once I saw it, and it was always in me. It was never someone outside of me. It was never the system, and there was never anything else that was broken. It was just my beliefs. That was it. That's the only thing. Yeah. Sophia writes, good to connect with the Calvin energy again. Thank you. It's so great to have you, Sophia. I haven't seen you in a while. Kristen Osavik writes, love your energy, Calvin. Thank you, Kristen. Phyllis Capana, can you speak to incorporating both masculine and feminine in a one-person business? All right. Yes, let's talk about that for a bit. And then I'm going to wrap up here. We're reaching the top of the hour. If you have any final questions, like throw them in there now. I'll see how many I can get to. Yes. So incorporating both masculine and feminine in a one-person business, you have to be aware, like, so again, one-person business here. So start by developing the awareness of the masculine energy and the feminine energy, and noticing when you're doing one or the other. Start to develop the awareness of, what does it feel like when you're doing this? What does it feel like when you're doing the other? Where do you feel energized and excited and full of energy after? and what drains you. And just be aware, if you're well balanced and you feel great and you have great energy around everything, then obviously there's nothing for you to change there. It's working fantastic, right? So it's assuming that it's not, right? Typically it will be. It could be that you're a woman, I'm guessing from your name, Phyllis. So if you're a woman, it could be that you have a very, very well developed feminine side, and there's just like, you're at home there, it's great, but there's just no masculine. And so you need to develop that, not to the point where you're as strong in your masculine as you are in your feminine, but you need to develop it to the point where you can use it as a tool. So you should use it sparingly, just exactly where it needs. So you would sit down and be like, okay, let's make a plan for the next 3 months or whatever, or marketing strategy. Like be very, very structured. Here's what we're gonna do. Like maybe hire a coach for this process either too, right? So that you just have a very clear structure, outline, map. This is what we're doing. Then we're doing this. Then we're doing this. Here's how we're gonna do it. All right, let's go. And then once you have that, like keep it up front center, like put it on the wall or whatever, and then follow that, right? Stay in touch with your feminine, follow the energy, but keep the structure. Like don't just throw it away and like, oh, I've done it, right? You need to follow it, the structure, and then then maybe you develop that masculine more over time. Again, it's a fantastic thing to be able to dive into and use, and then go back out and stay in your feminine. If you're the opposite, where you have, which seems to be the norm this day and age, where you have a super well developed masculine side as a woman, but an underdeveloped feminine side, then you really need to work on that, because then the feminine really needs to be nurtured up. There's a reason it wasn't developed. There is resistance towards it. And so you need to be very loving and nurturing and very patient with that little girl who's just like, she's done nothing wrong in this world, right? She's just like got the message that it wasn't okay to be a girl. It wasn't okay to be her. And so you need to really redress that. And so that's going to be a bigger project. It's going to be a longer term project, but it's going to reap rewards in your life forever, in every area of your life, right? Your relationship, your partner, intimate partner, your kids, your parents, your everything is going to be positively affected by this. And essentially nothing is going to be your health, nothing is going to be able to really move until you address that. So if that's the case, I would say that's your number one priority is to address that. I obviously don't know what else might be going on, but I would put that right up there at the top of the list. I hope that gave you some sense of it. Yeah. All right. Sophia writes, connect with your heart, manifest through action. I'm thinking maybe that's an answer to Phyllis. I'm not entirely sure, or it's something you wanted me to talk about. Regardless, I'm going to end here. It was fantastic to connect with y'all. A little different than planned, but I had fun. I hope you did too. I love you very much. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you again soon. Ellen says, such a great impromptu without your plan, coachy. I'm off now to figure out what I'm doing that's not allowing my speakers and mic to work today. Yeah, it might be something about speaking up right there, because you could hear me. So the hearing is good, but the speaking up could be something. Thank you for being so understanding, Calvin, and lovely getting to know you more today. Phyllis says, thank you. This helps. Laura says, thanks for the call. Kristen says, thanks. All right, guys. Love you. Thank you so much. I'll see you all soon. Bye.